Now, back to the Frontier Freedom Hour with Jeff Hunt, sponsored by Centennial Institute at Colorado Christian University. Here's Jeff Hunt.
We're talking with Jim Kerwin, senior attorney at Mountain States Legal Foundation, about the latest case, Jaiden Rodriguez. Remember that name? He is the Gadsden Flag kid. You remember this? It was on the news. It went all over social media. I think, did even Elon Musk get in on this? He should have, at least. Governor Polis came down on the side of Jaiden Rodriguez, this kid that wore the Gadsden Flag patch on his backpack. And then, these administrators being like, "It's such a terrible flag. You must take that off. We will not allow you back in the school until you take that off." And they were just like, you could just see them staring down their nose at him. And this brilliant young man stood up against it. And we've kind of talked about the facts of the case, where this case is going to go. And I'm grateful to have Jim Kerwin, senior attorney at Mountain States Legal Foundation, with us. So give us a little insight into Jaiden. Here's a kid. I saw interviews about he loves the Tuttle twins. He just seems to be kind of a conservative kid, right? It's just kind of at his core who he is.
Yeah, I think that's right. He's a very impressive 12-year-old. I know 12-year-olds.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and so not only in how he presents himself so respectfully and so articulately, but really in his bravery. There are many adults who are facing the reality of cancel culture in their jobs and things like that. It's hard to blame people for being intimidated and self-censoring and things like that. But Jaiden's having none of that. He's 12 years old, yet he's willing to stand up and say what he believes, and stand up when he's already been told to shut up. He's not doing it, and he's fighting for his rights. So I think that's really impressive.
When I go back and watch that video, I get the sense he kind of gets that from his mom. His mom was kind of the same way, right? She pushed back. In that video, we'll have it on the Twitter account, my Twitter account, which is x.com/Jeff Hunt. They're not lambasting. They don't fly off the handle. You're going to hear from my attorney or anything like that. They just kind of calmly respond and say, listen, you have your facts wrong with regards to the Gadsden Flag, and we're not going to put up with this type of censorship.
Yeah, I think that's right. The family is impressive overall. I think they've obviously raised their son correctly. That's the best proof of how great a job they're doing. Yes, I hope that I'm raising my kids to be similarly willing to stand up for themselves. I would say you referred to Jaiden as the Gadsden Flag kid a few times, which I think is totally accurate, but he may one day want you to call him something else, because he told me that he wants to run for governor of Colorado.
Yes! Oh my gosh! Here's why I love this. Okay, this is why I love the fact that this could be a possibility, because, and I've said many times on this show and other times on KNUS, Jared Polis has a really serious constitutional problem. This guy wants to run for governor, or run for president. He wants to kind of shoot the national level. When you look at Jack Phillips, now 2 cases, over 13 years of litigation, Lori Smith, all the cases she's had to deal with, all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now these cases, these Christian preschools that want to participate in universal pre-K. It just seems, from my perspective, like that under his leadership, you've got a real serious First Amendment viewpoint problem. And to have a kid like Jaiden Rodriguez that clearly gets the First Amendment, right? He's willing to push back and stand for it, and he understands the essence of it, and he's willing to sacrifice his own well-being for this. I go, yes, God could do a great correction in this state by putting a guy like Jaiden Rodriguez. And I'm going to have to talk to the leadership of CCU, because maybe we can get a scholarship going. We have a great politics scholarship at CCU. This is the type of kid that we love, because one of our strategic priorities is to impact our culture in support of the original intent of the Constitution. It matters to us. We host Constitution Day celebrations. We have our own pocket constitution, all this stuff. This is really, really important to us. And to see a 12-year-old that has more courage and guts. Honestly, Jim, this reminds me of when I was 14 years old. I got popped for curfew violation. I was riding my bike back from my friend's house to my parents' house, and I got popped for a curfew violation. And I thought that the curfew law was this horrible egregious violation of the right to assembly. And I remember Googling, this was even before Googling, I looked up the ACLU, I sent them an email, I grabbed my pocket constitution and I went down to the Cherry Hills City Council and I read my little pocket constitution and argued that their curfew law was a violation of my rights. Now, they didn't change anything, but I have a lot of respect for kids at that age who are empowered by their parents, and I appreciate my mom letting me do it back then. She probably disagreed with me. She's like, you need to be home. Don't be out so late. But, those parents that allow their kids to explore that and push a little bit, not just kind of take whatever's sent your way. That's
right. I think that describes this family exactly to a T, and also to do it in a respectful way. You're right. Jaiden is not... He's not a firebrand. He's not shouting and yelling at anybody. Neither is his family. They're very respectful, which makes them all the more effective.
That's right. That's right. Jim Kerwin, what was your draw into First Amendment law? You're senior attorney at Mountain States Legal Foundation. I kind of shared my story. We watched these young kids come up. Was there a moment when you were a young guy that you said, I want to devote my career to First Amendment issues?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little more recent than that. It's just watching what's been happening with cancel culture, and it is a frightening thing to see one of the most important pillars of freedom, one of the most important checks and balances really on governmental overreach has to do with, really vigorously protecting the rights of people to express their views no matter how upsetting they are to others. And that, that worries me a lot, and it has inspired me to kind of reorient my legal career in this direction. That's why. And I don't want to presume any of your politics, but you're a graduate from the University of California, Berkeley School of Law. I mean, that's kind of where free speech, especially on college campuses, broke out, right? 50s, 60s-ish. Wasn't that the free speech movement at Berkeley that really drove a lot of that? It sure is. It's really dismaying to me that, you don't want to presume about my politics. I'm not ashamed of them. I'm certain I am to the left of you. I consider myself a centrist, and I kind of always have. And it's dismaying to me that people who oftentimes in the past I would have, on certain social issues, probably agreed with them more or less, or at least been willing to entertain their views, have turned over to what I consider really the dark side of just suppressing views they disagree with rather than engaging them. And so I found myself, as my career has advanced, being much more drawn to the kind of institution where I work now, even if I don't always agree with everything that everybody who works here agrees with. That's not the point. People here are willing to listen to points of view that don't exactly match their own, and that's less and less true where I came from. Jim Kerwin, I would put you in the category of a classical liberal, and unfortunately we're kind of losing those these days. I think that's when we host the Western Conservative Summit, people go, why do you host Tulsi Gabbard, for instance? Isn't Tulsi a Democrat? Why would you bring her out? I go, Tulsi's kind of a classical liberal. She embraces, kind of the original ideas of the Constitution, limited government, free speech, the Bill of Rights, all that good stuff. And they found a place at places like the Western Conservative Summit because there's a lot that we agree on. Well, Jim, I really appreciate it. What's the website that people can follow this case at? They should go to MS Legal, that's all spelled out, MSLEGAL.org. That's the Mountain States Legal Foundation website. You'll find information on all of our cases, including Jaiden's case there, and you can follow along. There's also a big yellow donate button. Listen, guys, you got to support these folks on the front lines for the founding principles that make America great. And I appreciate Jim coming on, being on the show. Let's go to mslegal.org. Sign up for their emails. They've got a subscribe button there. They've also got a donate button. I'm so very grateful for folks like you. Thank you for stepping up along with Jaiden Rodriguez and his family. And we're going to continue to track this case and the great work that you all are doing. Thanks so much, Jim. Thank you, Jeff. Friends,
This is what we do at the Centennial Institute. We're kind of gatherers. We're organizers. We bring people like Mountain States Legal Foundation together so you can hear these cases that are taking place. You can attend the Western Conservative Summit. By the way, we have dates for this year's summit. June 7th and 8th, 2024. We're going to be at the Westin in Westminster. It's one of the largest gatherings of conservatives in America. It's a wonderful 50 nationally renowned conservative speakers, thousands of attendees, great organizations like Mountain States Legal Foundation are there, and KNUS broadcasts live from the summit. So you get a chance to meet all the great hosts that are part of KNUS in Salem as well. So go to centennial.ccu.edu. That's centennial.ccu.edu to join up and hook up with the great work that we're doing at the Centennial Institute. Friends, I got to tell you, it's disheartening to look at what's happening on college campuses around the country. But Colorado Christian University, so very clear on who we are, where we stand, what we believe. We were out early, very clearly in defense of Israel and their right to defend themselves against that horrific attack that took place. Guys, you saw it, what happened at like Harvard, Columbia, even George Washington University, one of my alma maters, where you just go, the schools are losing their minds. They're so baked into kind of Marxist, leftist worldview of the idea of oppressors and oppressed, and they just kind of ran with that, and just no clear leadership from the university presidents. But at CCU, we clearly stood with Israel. Join us in this great Christian conservative university, ccu.edu. All right, friends, we're up against a commercial break. Thank you to Kelly, the Boss Hog Michaels, for running the board. This is Jeff Hunt. We'll see you next week on the Frontier Freedom Hour. God bless you, and yeehaw.